Hello, welcome to Woke House YouTube channel about Buddhism. I dedicate this talk about Shakyamuni Buddha to my Lama. He is my Buddha, even though I'm a poor student of this great teacher, Lama Tuku Sori Dechen Rinpoche. You can find him at ytdr.org, ytdr.org, and I'll put links underneath these videos. So, to talk about Buddhism, you think that we might go back to the beginning, right? Do you think Buddhism started with the Buddha? You would be both right and wrong. So, there's not just one Buddha. The Buddha of our time is Siddhartha Gautama Buddha of the Shakya clan. Lived 2,600 years ago. They call him Shakyamuni, which means the sage of the Shakyas. It's kind of like a last name or a clan name in the part of India that he lived. He lived as kind of royalty. He lived a very pampered life, but he was a very real person. In other words, the Buddha that we discuss, Buddha, we don't worship the Buddha. The Buddha is a role model for us. Somebody that was born as a human being, an ordinary man, and he found enlightenment during his lifetime. It took multiple lifetimes to get there, but he eventually got there. And so that holds out hope for us. You know, if he was a god or an angel or supernatural being, then there would be no hope for us. But the fact that we honor and revere a man, a person that found enlightenment during their lifetime with no help or inspiration from outside in some spiritual realm somewhere, that's some motivation for us to practice, some motivation for us to continue our studies, some motivation for us to move forward and not give up hope that liberation is possible in this lifetime. And when I talk about liberation, then we have to start talking about samsara and what samsara is and what this world is and why you would want liberation from it. But today I want to just go, briefly discuss the Buddhas. So it is said that even though Siddhartha is the Buddha of our time, and he lived 2,600 years ago, and it's his teachings that we study and think about and contemplate, he was just one of many Buddhas that have arisen on this planet. There's possibly millions of Buddhas that have come and arisen on this planet. So, and we can discuss some of those Buddhas at some point, but it's said that a Buddha will arise on the planet, and his teachings, once he begins teaching, turning the will of Dharma, once he turns the will of Dharma, once he communicates the teachings, as soon as they become language, they start deteriorating. They start losing their potential. And so after the Buddha, whatever Buddha it is, preaches the Dharma, immediately it starts going into decline. And so it'll spread, and then eventually, once it spreads, it starts actually being forgotten, or it gets mixed with other religions, or it gets mixed with other, it's translated in other languages, and it's misinterpreted, and different cultures add different things to it, and so it's weakened. Every time it's almost person to person, it's spread through language, it loses something. And that's why I guess in some traditions like Zen, they talk about a mind, and Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about a mind-to-mind transmission between teacher and pupil so that it doesn't lose its potentiality. But so the Buddha of our era, Siddhartha, he grew up in a town in a region of Nepal. And as a pampered kind of kid, born in wealth, he was protected from some of the atrocities or the suffering of normal folk, I guess. And one day he was in a chariot and he was going from his summer palace to his winter palace or something like that. He happened to look over and he had 4 visions that changed his life. So he saw a old man, a decrepit old man, and he had never seen or experienced age to that extent before. And then he looked and he saw a sick man laying on the side of the road. And he wasn't familiar with sickness, not to that extent. And then a little bit later down the road, he saw a corpse. He saw a dead man. And he was shocked to his core. And while he was thinking on these things, he saw an ascetic, like a holy man, somebody that had turned his back on the worldly lifestyle, turned his back on business and money and career and family, and just went out into the forest to study the mind, to study reality, to see, to find truth. And so he asked his charioteer about these things, and his charioteer said, oh yes, you too, Siddhartha, will grow old. And, it blew his mind. Like, I'm going to be like that old man over there? And then he said, yes, Siddhartha, you too will get sick. And he said, I'm going to get sick? I could get cancer. I could get leprosy. I could get some of these terrible diseases like that man? And the charioteer said, yes, and you will also die, Siddhartha. And so Siddhartha, for the first time in his life, as a young man coming out of this pampered lifestyle, he realized suffering, or that he was in samsara, that he would grow old and that he would get sick and that he would die. And at that moment, he thought of the holy man or the ascetic. And he asked the charioteer, he said, what was that? The naked man with the dreadlocks and dirty and paint on his face and walking around like a crazy man? What was he doing? And the charioteer said, that man has devoted his life to seeking the truth. He wants to know why we get old, we get sick, and we die. And Siddhartha said, I too want to know these things. I too want to know the ultimate truth. And so, on thinking on these things, he returned to his palace, and he was married, and he had a son. And that night, he kissed his sleeping wife, and he kissed his sleeping child, and he slipped out to abandon. He abandoned his family. They were living in wealth, so I'm sure they were okay. But, the father left, and he left to seek the ultimate truth. And so it said that while it seems, bad to walk out on your family, his wife was going to get old and get sick and die. His son would get old and get sick and die. So he wanted to find the nature of reality and see if there was a cure to this disease, if there was such a thing as liberation. And so he did that for all mankind, all humankind. He did it for his wife, he did it for his son, he did it for his family. He wasn't running down to the bar to play pool. There was a noble cause. And later on, you'll find out that his wife actually became a nun in his sangha. Bhikkhunis, I think it's called, or an ani, a female, a nun, and then his son became a monk, a bhikshu. I think a nun is a bhikshunis. I don't know. I can't pronounce a lot of these words, so believe me, you'll be hearing me destroy the vocabulary of Buddhism this whole time. So Buddha went out, and this guy Siddhartha set out on this quest to find the ultimate meaning of life. And so we'll discuss more in the next video. Thank you.